What happens when you drill a massive hole underneath a volcano? Well, scientists in Iceland are about to find out. They're planning to drill a 2-kilometer deep hole straight into a pool of magma. If you're now wondering why this should matter to you at all, we have a little surprise for you in this video. In fact, the results of this experiment could be life-changing for us all. Hi, I'm Regis, and you've come to the right place to get away from all the negativity in the news. The world is full of plenty of positive news too, which is why we've made it our mission to collect the most inspiring stories every week and bring them straight to you. From a revolutionary supersonic plane to a new app on your phone that could save millions of lives, here are 7 good news stories from all around the world. And we start off in South Korea, where the country has just banned the sale and production of dog meat. Many countries around the world still permit the sale and consumption of dogs, especially around Asia, in places like China, Indonesia, and Vietnam. These traditions date back hundreds and sometimes thousands of years. In South Korea, a survey found that nationwide, around 1,600 restaurants were still offering dog meat. Not the kind of dish I'd want to see on the menu, to be perfectly honest, but hey, to each their own. Younger people in the country are being influenced more by Western norms than their parents or grandparents were, and as a result, they view dogs as pets rather than food and are eating much less of it. Animal welfare groups have been waging a war against the practice for years, holding protests and collecting signatures, but until recently, they've failed to get it banned. But here comes the good news. The government has now finally responded with new legislation that bans the sale and production of dog meat in South Korea. It passed through the National Assembly unanimously and will come into effect in 2027 to give time for businesses to replace their dog meat products. In my opinion, it shouldn't take 3 years to change the menu, but at least a major change is now in sight. Next, let's move over to the United States, where there's good news for diabetics, as insulin prices are dropping to just $35 a month. As the only way to regulate glucose levels in the body, almost 7.5 million Americans with diabetes depend on artificial insulin. Despite it being very common, diabetes is a very expensive condition, with the average affected person spending over $12,000 a year. These prices are caused by just 3 companies, which together control almost 90% of global insulin production. And instead of making insulin more affordable as diabetes cases have risen, these companies have increased the price by 300%. And here comes the good news. In early 2023, after a government-led investigation, President Joe Biden targeted drug prices, making it less profitable for companies to price gouge.
I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone.
It put a cap of $35 on insulin for anyone with Medicare, which 2 of the major insulin producers quickly abided by. Eli Lilly announced a 70% cut to prices, quickly followed by Novo Nordisk, which dropped theirs by 75%. Sanofi has now become the last of the big 3 to lower its insulin prices to $35, which came into effect on the first day of this year. But that's not even all of it. The government program plans to include more and more medicine each year over the next decade to make treatment affordable for all Americans. Next up, we have more good medical news, as hearing aids could actually help you live longer. Sounds strange, right? Hear me out. No pun intended. According to research by the Keck Medical Center in California, using a hearing aid can extend lives. The research used hearing tests from 10,000 people, taken over 13 years, to see if there was any difference in between groups. They wanted to see what the difference was between people with hearing problems who used a hearing aid regularly and people who didn't. Surprisingly, the group who didn't use a hearing aid had a 24% higher mortality risk. Basically, that means that regardless of things like age and income, if you have hearing problems, then not using a hearing aid could shorten your lifespan. The reason isn't actually as mysterious as it first seems. Researchers believe it's related to the connection between hearing quality and communication. Without the ability to interact normally, the risk of mental health issues like anxiety, depression, and even dementia is actually heightened. All of these are associated with lower health and shorter lifespans. The study points to hearing aids being an important part of this equation, but research shows that only around 10% of the people who should be using hearing aids are actually using them. So if you know someone who should be wearing their hearing aid but isn't, make sure you show them this video. And if you want to add a little bit more good news to your homepage, do us a favor and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for your support. Next up is the invention of a revolutionary app that could actually save millions of lives all around the world. We're very familiar with the weather apps on our phones, which can access temperature, air quality, and meteorological information for pretty much every place in the world at the tap of a finger. But imagine if you could measure all of these things yourself straight from your phone. I know this doesn't sound like a big deal, but hear me out on this one. After years of research, $13 million in funding, and the work of some of the best physicists in the world, 2 technology companies have now developed an application called Mobile Physics. The app uses sensors already built into our conventional smartphones, and then combines this data with AI and advanced computational physics. Whew! Only recently did it go public with its breakthrough technology, which it promises will improve access to environmental information for people all around the world. And it couldn't have come at a more important time either, as the World Health Organization reported that air pollution was connected to around 6.7 million deaths in the last year alone. These are mainly caused by harmful smoke from unsafe fuel sources like kerosene, coal, and crop waste. A portable, easy-to-use environment reader such as the Mobile Physics app could be a great solution for reducing these deaths, as it allows your phone to report levels of UV exposure, smoke pollution, air quality, and other metrics for every inch of the planet. So if you're exposed to a harmful environment, the app can instantly warn you by sending a notification straight to your phone. Now from technology in your hand to technology in the sky, our next story comes from NASA, which has just developed a revolutionary aircraft that can achieve supersonic speeds without causing a sonic boom. A sonic boom is the noise that comes from an aircraft moving so fast that waves of air compress into a single explosive shock. It's usually accompanied by a cloud called a vapor cone, but unless you've been to an air show, you probably haven't seen one in real life before. That's because supersonic planes were banned in most countries decades ago. The most famous of them was the Concorde, which was designed for commercial use in the 1960s and could travel from Paris to New York in under 3.5 hours, slicing the flight time in half. As early as 1973 though, supersonic travel over land was banned because it disrupted residential areas and could even break windows. Now, a partnered project between NASA and Lockheed Martin has engineered the first aircraft that can break the sound barrier without causing a sonic boom. The aircraft, named the X-59, can travel at approximately 1,480 kilometers per hour. For reference, that's about 1.5 times the average speed of a Boeing 747. Instead of a shockwave of thunderous sound, the X-59 produces a sound that has been described as a gentle thump. It's made possible by the unique shape of the X-59's nose, which is much sharper than similar high-speed aircraft, and breaks up the shockwaves instead of allowing them to build up. Another feature that helps to minimize the sonic boom effect is the removal of a forward-facing window. An external vision system connects cameras installed outside the jet with a screen inside the cockpit, using augmented reality to give the pilots the vision they need. NASA and Lockheed Martin will carry out test flights of the X-59 to determine whether or not it can be commercially viable. This could be the first step for reintroducing safe supersonic air travel, which would massively cut down long-haul flight times. Our next story takes us to Guatemala, where an indigenous group has just won a landmark court battle. For over 4 decades, the Kekchi have been fighting to stop the Guatemalan government from clearing their land. Back then, deals were made against the will of the people to allow the construction of large nickel mines. In the early 2000s, the Kekchi took their fight to court, where deep corruption between mining companies and the government was exposed. Finally, almost 20 years later, a court has ruled that the Guatemalan government broke international law. It means that if any company wants to mine on the land, they need to get the approval of the Kekchi people first. The decision is part of a movement across Latin America to claim back indigenous land, like in Ecuador, where last November, control was given back to the Siakopai people. And now, for our last story, we go deep underground in Iceland, where the world's first magma chamber tunnel might provide unlimited energy. Iceland heats up around 90% of its houses using geothermal energy. This comes from capturing steam deep beneath Earth's surface in geothermal wells, which then spins turbines and produces electricity. Just 0.1% of the Earth's heat could supply humans with enough energy to last 2 million years. Let that sink in for a moment. That includes everything from heating and lighting to manufacturing and travel. However, the upfront costs needed to drill underground and capture this energy are just massive. And combined with the relatively low economic value of geothermal energy compared to oil or gas, companies have been unwilling to invest. Now, an experimental type of geothermal technology could make it worthwhile. It's all thanks to something called supercritical water. In some places underground, where the temperature and pressure are high enough, water enters a supercritical state, meaning it's not quite a liquid, but it's also not quite a gas. This is the same concept as putting a lid on a boiling pot, which allows the water to actually go higher than boiling temperatures. Multiply this effect for the extreme temperature and pressure found underground, and you have supercritical water. The important thing is that in this state, water holds a lot more energy than usual, just like the boiling water in the pot has a higher temperature. When released into steam, it generates around 10 times the amount of geothermal energy than what's currently possible. The promise of these high energy levels is what led to the Krafla magma testbed, a project that's drilling a gigantic borehole 2 kilometers underneath Iceland's most active volcano, Krafla. The plan is to deliberately puncture a magma chamber for the first time ever. Magma chambers are where molten rock from volcanoes is stored, and temperatures can reach over 1,200 degrees Celsius, quadruple the temperature of most geothermal wells. From the magma chamber, scientists believe they can tap into the high-pressure supercritical water that often surrounds the magma. A similar experiment already generated 35 megawatts of electrical output, 7 times more than a normal geothermal well, and enough to power over 22,000 homes for an entire year. A big challenge is building equipment that can withstand the extreme conditions of magma. Still, scientists believe that if the experiment is successful, it would be a major step towards tapping into the unlimited energy that the Earth provides. Are there any other good news stories that have caught your eye recently? And which of our stories are you the most excited about? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back with more good news next week.